Lots of mentions of the word deal there, Faisal. What's your sense of whether one may be close?
Hi, Jane. Yeah, we've had some significant developments really in the last hour or so that may help to explain the conciliatory tone that I picked up and communicated in that report, which is that our partners CBS News are reporting that the chief executives of Walmart and Target have privately warned President Trump of empty shelves in the coming weeks if he continues with his tariff policies, and that probably particularly concerns the prohibitive tariffs both ways on US-China trade. We're hearing from the ports on the west coast of America, Los Angeles in particular, of a potential collapse in China to US cargoes, down 33% this week, potentially 44% in the first week of May. This is a serious hit to the world economy and something that will be seen visibly in the US on shelves, if you believe the CEOs of some of America's biggest companies, or at least the reporting of what they have said privately. This is highly significant stuff, may explain, as I say, some of the reaches for deals. We think there might be a meeting between Scott Bessent, who you saw in my report, the US Treasury Secretary, and his Chinese counterpart. That meeting, if it happens, assumes incredible importance in bringing the world down from this trade war. We don't know if it happens. We don't know if the Chinese want to pick up the phone and attend that. We don't know what the conditions will be, but incredibly important meetings happening here at the IMF in DC, and not just involving the UK.
One of the largest.
President Trump continues to defend his sweeping tariffs on foreign goods, but Tuesday he said 145% import taxes on some Chinese products would, quote, come down substantially. Earlier Wednesday, CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cortez asked Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt about trade with China.
What have these huge tariffs on China accomplished?
Leverage and ensuring the rest of the world knows that the United States of America is no longer going to be ripped off. President Trump has made that very clear, not just with China, but with almost every single country on the planet.
But has that leverage actually worked? Because China hasn't made any concessions at all.
Have some patience and you will see.
Have some patience and you will see. CBS News White House reporter Aaron Navarro joins us now. So while the administration says have some patience, we're learning the heads of Walmart and Target warned President Trump about what his tariffs will mean for their stores. What did they say? Did it have an impact?
Lindsay, good to be with you. What we've learned here at CBS News is that these CEOs of Walmart, Target privately warned President Trump in the meeting earlier this week that his tariff policy could impact their supply chains and potentially trickle down to the consumers with a shortage of certain goods and potentially empty shelves. Now, this price increase for consumers is something that CEOs of Target have talked about publicly in interviews, but it's of course notable they're bringing their concerns directly to the president. Now, the White House and the president battle back against any assertion that they are softening their approach to tariffs. But if you just look at what they've been doing, you saw Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent say that the relationship between the U.S. and China is unsustainable right now. He talked about de-escalating, and President Trump has talked about in recent days of lowering that tariff depending on cooperation with China. And we just heard in an Oval Office meeting where President Trump signed some executive orders that when asked, when could these tariffs be lowered on China, you saw Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick say it really depends on them. And you heard President Trump make a little bit of news when asked if there are talks happening with China, and he said, quote, of course they are happening every day. Now, the White House has not confirmed that before, if there were direct talks happening between the two big global markets, so that's certainly some news there.
Wouldn't we get a readout if there were direct talks?
Well, we haven't so far yet, and the White House has primarily been talking about negotiations with non-China countries, saying that there are 18 offers on the table, that they've been in touch with over 100 countries. But certainly China is at the core of President Trump's, quote, reciprocal tariffs, but they have not given the readout yet on how those talks are going.
President Trump also signed executive orders